Now we're ready for our second speaker, and it is, there he is, Selcuk from 500 Startups. Please welcome Selcuk. So, Selcuk is here tonight to talk about the investor's perspective into three different opportunities in music technology: distribution, monetization, and creation. So, without further ado, here's Selcuk.
Hey guys, how are you doing? Cool. So I'm Selcuk. I live in San Francisco, but as of recently, I started spending quite a bit of time here in Toronto as well, and we'll get to why that is the case pretty soon. How many of you know about 500 Startups? Good, we're doing a good job in spreading the good word, I guess. So we're, next slide. So 500 Startups is one of the most active, probably the most active seed stage investors in the world. Over the past 4 or 5 years, we've invested in over 1,500 companies. Mostly in Silicon Valley, but we're basically one of the more global investment firms. So we have investments in Canada, we have investments in Turkey, Korea, Nordics, everywhere. We have about $240 million under management, and our staff is actually a ginormous 110 all around the world, speaking over 20 different languages. And I'm actually Turkish. I grew up in Istanbul. So a few things about myself. I'm a venture partner at 500 Startups. That means I help invest in companies that go through our accelerator program. And I am running a new initiative that we're keeping under the wraps, which I'll covertly tell you a little bit more about today. I've started 2 companies, raised about $10 million in venture capital from Y Combinator, 500 Startups, first round capital, sold one of those companies to Rakuten, which is a big Japanese e-commerce company, and joined 500 about a year ago. And the main thing is I'm also a sellout musician. I'm a singer-songwriter. I played a lot of shows, and I have an upcoming EP coming in the fall. So I'm like an indie rock singer-songwriter. You can just go to soundcloud.com/Selcuk Atli to check out more of my stuff. But today, before I get into some music stuff, I want to talk about this really secret thing that we're building in Toronto called 500 Labs. And what that is we're most known to be investing in companies. But with 500 Labs, we're actually partnering with really talented engineers, designers, and marketers to build companies from scratch. The way that we do that is we have shared resources across these companies, from design, growth, back office. We have these really smart people joining us to run experiments. We have a bunch of ideas. We work on a bunch of experiments. Those experiments turn into products. And those products, the most successful ones, we spin them out, we invest in them, and we pay these people throughout this entire process. So essentially you get paid to be a founder. And you get a bunch of equity into startups. And if any of you are interested, you can go to our site, 500labs.com. And the reason why I'm talking about this here is this is a global operation, but we're actually doing this in Canada for the first time in the world because you guys are badass, and we want to hire you. I know I said I'm going to be talking about 3 trends in music: content distribution, monetization, and creation. I'll talk about distribution and monetization really briefly, but I really want to focus on content creation, which is something that is kind of exciting to us and me personally, and for 500 Labs as well, and I'm going to tell you why. So the things that are interesting, really short, in distribution is like record labels are kind of becoming irrelevant more or less because you can just self-publish your albums and self-promote it, and digital advertising is actually the way to go. MTV is being replaced by Spotify, Pandora, and those other guys. So that's something I'd look at. Monetization, artists are actually making more money across other channels than royalties. Like merchandising, there's really awesome tools to sell merchandising online. There's awesome tools like Patreon. Instead of putting advertising on your YouTube videos, you can actually ask your fans to just give you money. All right? There's really cool things going on, but I'm going to talk about content creation, which is kind of really exciting to me. And what I mean by that is, before I do that, I want to talk like a minute about Instagram. So I'm going to ask you a question. Instagram, we all know it, huge company, bought by Facebook. And when they first started, they started growing really fast. And why do you guys think Instagram was like super successful and grew really fast when they came up? And that's close. Another one? Filters. Yes, filters. Filters made awful photographers feel like they were like this hipster photographer, right? You basically take like a shitty photo and you look like, oh my god, I studied 4 years at the Pratt Institute of Design. So basically it brought, like, photography was this thing that these really professional people could do, and it brought this down to like average human beings like myself. I took a shitty photo and looked great. So can you actually do that for music? Right? Do you actually have to be a musician to create music and express yourself in this new art form? People have done this in kind of shitty ways, right? Going to a karaoke is like, gives me a headache, usually. Because like you can go and like sing in a karaoke bar, and then people have done kind of music playing games like Guitar Hero, right? Just press these buttons and follow what you see on the screen. That's not really creating music. Another trend that's happened since the unleashing of Guitar Hero is that all these kids were basically accessing the internet using these little screens called mobile phones, and then we started seeing all these really cool apps. Smule, this really big music company, launched this thing where you can actually play piano with your fingers, but all you have to do is hit these little things, and then you just like follow the music. You're not really creating anything, right? It's kind of like Guitar Hero on your iPad. There's these really new cool apps, like for example, there's this app called Dub Smash. How many of you know Dub Smash? Right, they have 100 million users. It's pretty cool, just like pick a song and then just basically lip sync over the song and kind of showcase your awesome musicianship, really. Are we really creating music here? Musically, 80 million users, just similar thing, just like pick up a song and have your dog play in a music video clip. Like, so these things show us that there's a need for these average human beings to feel like they need to express themselves musically. But this thing that we're calling a musical instrument is like a really hard thing to play. How many of you play instruments? Right? It's easy for us because we've basically kind of learned this, right? Like driving or something. But when you look at the user experience of an instrument, instruments don't have really good UX, right? Because to play an instrument, you need to know the key, or jamming, you need to know the key that the song is in. Do you guys know what a key is? Like a key is like every song is in a key. It could be like A minor, C major, whatever, and then a key is essentially like a bunch of notes that are okay to play, right? And if you play any notes outside of that key, it's going to sound weird and bad, and that's just what we're trained to hear. So you just need to know what the key the song is in, and then you need to look at this instruments, be it a guitar, banjo, piano. You need to be able to hit the notes in that instrument. So like you need to somehow translate the set of notes into these actions that you have to do with your mouth or your fingers. So you play the notes. But the tough thing here is that the instrument needs to be designed in a way that it has to be easy to play every key. Right? So like any note should be super easy to play. And then you just have fun. The problem here is like this guitar, for the first time user, it's kind of like a complicated thing, and like it doesn't know what key the song is in. Right? So it has like infinite amount of options to do things on this guitar to actually sound good, but like if you hit any notes that are not in key, you're just going to sound bad. So the UX problem here is like these instruments that were designed over 100 years ago were not designed to be intelligent enough to just give you options just playing key, right? So what can we do here, right? So one of the cool things is that we have this supercomputer in our pockets, and it's pretty easy for the supercomputer to know that what key the song is in, and then you can basically turn this screen into an awesome UI where anything that you do will be in key, right? So you no longer need to actually play an instrument to sound good. But we haven't really seen a lot of innovation in that space. So a lot of music creation expression tools have been designed to just imitate musicianship, but it's not to create and express yourself. So that's like something that we find pretty exciting. And if you do that, what you could do is you can turn music into this thing that you can just consume, into this game that you can play and like the things that you can express, right? So let's say you got on like a road trip with your friends. Instead of just basically somebody playing DJ on Spotify, you could actually be an actual DJ, or you could play music while you're going, or we could turn these guys jamming in their living room to people playing on their Apple TV, which is kind of depressing, but I think it could be fun. So anyways, like these were like one of the themes that we're like excited about, and we'd like to see more innovation from at 500. And if you guys are interested, if you're engineers, designers, marketers, if you're interested in what we're doing, this is our website, 500labs.com/join. I'll be shamelessly promoting ourselves as well as a VC. And so this is my email. If you guys need to get in touch, feel free. And I'm happy to take questions.
Are there any startups that you come across that are working on the creation part, like what you were describing?
I've seen some startups that are working on the creation part, but like a lot of the startups that I've seen that are working on the creation part still serve professional musicians, right? So there's this awesome company called Splice. How many of you know Splice? Right? It's a pretty good tool. It's like Dropbox for professional musicians, and like you actually have to know how to use Cubase and Logic and stuff to use that. And I don't know how many people use Logic, right? So like I'm talking about like people who you see on the bus and like the people who go to karaoke. There are some other startups that are kind of building DJ-ish tools, but that's not really kind of playing an instrument, just basically putting a bunch of sound bites together, and like being a DJ is not really difficult in the first place. So that kind of like, can you actually turn Guitar Hero into this like thing where you can express yourself is, I think, pretty cool. The closest company to that is like Smule. They're doing pretty cool stuff, but that's kind of like, still a lot of what they're doing is like makes you feel like a musician, but doesn't really let you express yourself. They're just building games. Smule, S-M-U-L-E.
Have you tried propeller heads figure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a DJ-ish thing still.
It's actually a music creation tool. It's pretty much the domain that you're talking. They actually have other tools that are pretty much what you're talking about. And there's also Photo 4. I can actually think about 10 or so apps that do what you're talking about. That has like an interface that you can play in key and create music without being a DJ, because actually being a DJ is very simple.
Yeah, exactly.
Creating original music very easily without,
Yeah, I'd love to follow up and take a look at more of those apps. That would be a lot of fun. Cool.
It's interesting that you drew the analogy that, okay, so you had this photography as an art, and then you kind of casualized it through Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of do make that same analogy that, okay, well, music, you could casualize it into the same sort of social atmosphere. But what's interesting about that is with Instagram and Facebook, what's happening is like, you're tapping into like a human need to connect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's hard for me to kind of distract, but essentially there's something there where like there's an insecurity that's being fed into with these kind of social services. Do you kind of see how music could do that? Because I actually don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So it's a need to connect, but I would basically look at Instagram more of like it's less of a social network, more of like a need to express yourself and show off. Right? So you're basically like, my life is so fucking awesome, look at this cool picture that I got, right? Music, people also like, I think the reason why like Dub Smash and Musical.ly and those other tools are getting like 80 million, 100 million downloads is like usage, is that people have like a similar need to express themselves and like feel like they're cool, like they're like good musicians. I think there's like a similar thing over there, but of course there's differences as well. But I think I'll definitely look into more apps, but like probably there might be some issues in like user experience and ease of use and stuff like that that we haven't seen the surgeons that we've seen with like Musical.ly and other apps in that one as well.
I'm assuming music creation or technology isn't the only industry you're looking at for 500 Lives.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. Yeah. So music creation is like one theme that we're kind of interested in among like dozens of other themes. We're mostly interested in mobile applications and technologies like that we can target for consumers, or like there's this other thing that we call consumerization of enterprise. Can you actually provide tools and products for business people that are super easy to use as consumer products? But a lot of those concepts are in mobile. And one, because mobile is interesting and growing fast. But second, for a startup studio like 500 Labs, where we're building products internally, we need to have some kind of shared focus, so we can basically share our know-how and talent across multiple projects. So that's why we've chosen to focus on one area, which is mobile. But two other things that we really care about is like, one, we call this thing growth by design. So can we actually, because one of the problems that we see is we invest in a lot of startups at 500 startups, and one thing that we see is growth is not, like not every product is created equally in the eyes of growth, right? So some products have like unfair advantages for growth by conception, and we have a lot of internal experience in growth marketing, and we try to pick products that we know how to grow really fast. So because like growth is super important for startups. If you're not growing, you're not a startup. And I would say the third thing is kind of trying to basically excel in user experiences and create cool, magical user experiences. Because once you do that, the moment that a user has like a magical user experience, you're going to have word of mouth. They're like, oh my God, I got in this cab and I didn't have to use my credit card. I'm going to tell my friend. Hello, Uber, right? Exactly. You should look, oh my fucking God, I love this thing and I'm going to tell my friend because I want to look cool, right? Exactly. Those are like the experiences that we're striving to achieve, but those are the kinds of things that we do at 500. Huh? Oh, 500 Labs? It's super new, so I hope it's going to be good. Yeah, please go on.
What criteria are you using when you're approaching startups and you're looking to provide funding or whatever?
Yeah.
It sounds like, based on what you're saying right now, a lot of the products that you're looking at or developing haven't a priority value in the sense that, oh, this is a cool thing you can use. You can be a musician without having to be a musician, that sort of thing. Are there longer term goals that you're looking at, stuff that you want to see push forward, or is this just kind of stuff that you're finding that you kind of go, wow, we can monetize this today?
Yeah, totally. So with 500, so I can speak on these on two different angles, right? I can speak for 500 Labs, and I can speak for 500 startups general. For 500 Labs, like kind of these magical user experiences is part of what we're looking for, because we care about user experiences that much, but like the reason why we do anything is for growth, right? So the reason why we do that is like we want to grow fast, and it's okay if it doesn't, as long as we're growing fast. So with 500 startups, the thing that we do look at is like, and so the criteria for labs is more kind of narrow. We try to basically build things that we know how to grow really fast, and we do these things in mobile and stuff. For 500 startups, the thing that we really care about is, like, I'll tell you three things that we look at. One is we look at the team. Do we think these people will really understand their market and they're going to be kind of resilient and they're going to execute on this opportunity? The second thing that we look at is this a big market? Can these guys become big? Like, what's that company going to look like 5 years out? Because the reasons why we invest in a company is not to get like a 2x return. We're trying to make our money 10 times over, right? So, and the third thing that we look at, and the thing that we care a lot at the 500 startups, is growth. And what I mean by growth is how fast are you growing month over month? Because once you kind of achieve this like velocity, that basically is like a very clear signal for product market fit for us. And the reason why we care about that is one of the main benefits and strengths of 500 startups as an investor and accelerator program is we have dozens of people on staff that work with our teams with growth marketing. So like we have people who headed growth marketing at Hulu and Lyft and stuff. So these people actually work with our startups hands-on to grow their startups. But the problem is, if you haven't really figured out what people want and you don't know what your product is, and if we helped you with growth, we would break you. Right? Because if before you focused on growth and marketing, you need to be really focusing on building the right thing. So that's why that's where our main differentiator is and where we try to focus on. Thank you. Yes, that's where I grew up.
So if you're really free everything and you're coming to labs with a concept, maybe you don't even have an MVP, maybe storyboards and a really great idea. That was my question. How do you handle the IP issues? What if we have a conversation and I share a great idea, we get really excited, and it turns out
I couldn't get the question.
So now someone shared their
Mhm.
IP with you, but it's not something that's protectable,
Mhm.
and they decide it's not right.
Mhm.
Or maybe it does. Maybe it goes ahead.
Mhm.
What's your relationship in terms of ownership of intellectual
With
property?
500 labs and 500 startups.
Yeah, well, startups, it'd be easier to define.
Yeah.
With labs, I just could see it being kind of.
Yeah. So one, we basically try to build like a Chinese wall between those two things. I used to be doing more investing. I don't get involved with that as much. And second thing I would say is that like 500 startups actually does invest competitively, because we invest in so many startups, we basically invest such a little amounts that we can't really kind of not invest competitively. We invest in multiple competitors in a market. And the third thing that I would say is like, I wouldn't really worry about somebody stealing your idea, because like, if somebody else can steal your idea, that means that they're going to out-execute you, right? Because ideas are not something very protectable.
And that was where I was going. So someone
Yeah.
wants it at the lab stage, it's
Mhm.
mostly just an idea. How far along should they be before they come in and say, I'm going to share this idea?
Yeah. With labs, we don't invest. So you can't really pitch your idea to labs. No, it's basically we hire really smart people and experienced entrepreneurs, and we experiment on various ideas until we find something that works. Yeah. It's like kind of like an innovation lab. Some other examples in the United States is BetaWorks, Expa. Back in the 90s, there was Idea Lab. I think a Canadian example is Wesley Clover. That's something similar in Canada. There's like some other. No problem.
Last question. Is 500 Labs interested in content creators, composers, sound designers, artists, career professionals that you deal with?
So would 500 Labs be interested in artists and content creators and stuff? I can't think of an immediate way outside of like content marketing and stuff, because we're mostly kind of hiring engineers, designers, and marketers who are going to be part of these early stage startups.
But a music app, for example,
Mhm.
needs sounds.
Oh yeah, totally. We would.
Sequencing, perhaps, or some.
Yeah, case by case, based on the needs of the startup. So like I would consider that the need of the project or the startup versus 500 Labs in general. But on a case by case basis, wherever there's a need, we're open to partnering with everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.